Well, folks, welcome to another Friday fishing forecast, and it looks like it's going to be an absolutely beautiful weekend. Uh, Chad and I are actually going offshore with our buddy Ernie and his wife and a couple other people. We're going on a charter with Fish Hawk Charters. We've been out with them before, and we're looking forward to it because we're talking about running about 70 to 80 miles offshore. I have heard some reports of red tide. I have seen some dead fish offshore. We saw some dead fish last weekend, and we ran into some pretty murky water out about 3 miles past Egmont. We kind of traveled out that way, and it was like, no. So we turned around and came back in because we did so well. But anyway, I know the bay's doing well. A lot of people catching a lot of fish, if it be grouper, snapper. Now, when that front went through last week, it did shut things down, which typically a front, even though it's a slight front, it's enough to where you get these clear blue skies, and that barometric change messes with the fish. And so it kind of shut down the bite for a little bit. I heard a lot of people complaining about the bite and how slow it was and everything else. So understanding that, if you can get out before front like we did on that Saturday, and we hit that major feeding time bite, and it was nuts. I mean, we did so well. You saw where we caught those. We caught keeper grouper, we caught hogfish, we caught mangrove snapper. So we did very, very well with that. And so when I talk about these salooners, I just don't talk about them just to talk about them. I talk about them because I truly believe in the solunar periods. There's been more times than not, I can tell you right now, that I've caught more fish on the salooners than I have, because as soon as that major feeding time stopped on Saturday, the bite just went downhill. And I've been on the water on days to where the bite has been all day long, and then there's been a lot of days, more days than not, that I've been on the water and those fish cycle and they feed on those major and minor feeding times, especially if you don't have really good current flow on one tide or another. If you find that, then you will run into fish that are going to key in on those solunar periods. This is just based on experience, folks. This is not me just, as some of my friends say, it's witchcraft, but it's not witchcraft. It's something that I've put together, that I logged for a long time. Now I'm fortunate that I can log it through video. So when we go fishing, I can go back and look at almost every single one of our shows that we've done. And I'm not saying all of them, but pretty much almost all of them, where those bites that we're getting are either on a minor or major. And people say to us all the time, well, gosh, you make it look so easy. Well, there's two reasons. One, we've been fishing here for a long time. Two, is video editing. So you always can make it look good. You just don't show the times that it's not so good. If you really watch our videos really closely, you'll see the difference in the day. So that's a little hint. But overall, I mean, understanding and following those major and minor feeding times are huge. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into this weekend. Like I said, the weather's going to be absolutely beautiful. Light winds. We don't have a front coming in until, I think, early next week. And then the temperature's going to drop quite a bit, and it's going to stay low compared to what we've been having. So it's going to do a major shift in those fish and where they're going to start staging up. So when that happens, we'll get into that a little bit more, and we'll explain a little bit more of why that's happening and what's going on. So let's go ahead and get into the tides and salooners, and then we'll talk a little bit more about what's going on. I actually have a meeting today with potential sponsors, and we're working with other potential sponsors. So there's a lot going on, and we also have that seminar. So let's go ahead and get into the tides and salooners, and then we'll get into that stuff afterwards. Okay, for Saturday, we have a low tide at 9:44 a.m. at a 0.17. Then we have a high tide at 4:32 p.m. at a 1.77. And then we have a low tide at 8:11 p.m. at a 1.54. On Sunday, we have a low tide at 10:27 a.m. at a 0.20. We have a high tide at 5:27 p.m. at a 1.770. And then we have a low tide at 8:11 p.m. at a 1.59 foot. So as you can see, those tides, especially in the late afternoon when they're a very slow outgoing tide, that's going to be a great tide to fish for snapper and grouper. And then again, correlating those major and minor feeding times around those areas, and on those lower tides going out in the afternoon, the major feeding time actually correlates with those times at least a little bit. So you definitely want to pay attention to that, and really kind of, if you don't keep logs, maybe you should keep a log or two, and just to kind of get an idea of what you're looking at and understanding. So because throughout the year it changes with these fish, where they migrate to, where they set up. So understanding those things too, and we'll get into that as the fishing forecasts move along and we get into a different time of year when it cools down and things like that. So let's go ahead and talk about the solunar periods for this weekend. On Saturday, we have a minor feeding time from 9:40 a.m. to 10:40 a.m. Then we have a major feeding time from 2:36 p.m. to 4:36 p.m. Then on Sunday, we have a minor feeding time from 10:35 a.m. to 11:35 a.m. And then we have a major feeding time from 3:23 p.m. to 5:23 p.m. Well, as you can see behind me, the boat's not here. Brian took his boat. I don't know what we're gonna do this weekend if we're gonna fish on Saturday night. So if anybody has an open spot on their boat on Saturday, we might want to go and fish, depending on how we feel after the offshore trip, because that's going to be a long trip. But anyway, as I stated before, we have a lot of big things coming down the pipe. We're actually going to be working with, we are working with Waterland sunglasses. I don't have them on right now because the sun's still just coming up. So far, so good. The glasses have been awesome. They're priced at a really good price, and we will have a discount code, and I will get into that probably on our next video, talk about it a little bit more. But it is a sunglass that is working very well for us, and I've been very, very happy with it. So we're going to move forward with them. I've got a meeting today with a company. I don't want to divulge any information, but we're meeting today, and it could be a perfect fit for us and for them. And with the ever-changing, let me put it like this, with the ever-changing laws, with what's going on right now, with the FWC closing this, opening that, and the rule changes and everything else, and Chad and I even had a discussion on the boat last weekend. I could have sworn hogfish were 15 inches, and he was like, no, they're 14. I'm like, no, they're 15. No, they're 14. So he was able to get connection on his phone and said, yep, it's 14. So understanding the laws, but the only problem is they're changing so much. It's so hard to keep up with everything, and you have these apps that you can use, but if you're offshore, you can't get to that app unless you take screenshots of it. So if you're going offshore and you're not quite sure, that's what I highly recommend. Do take screenshots of the rules and regulations so you have an understanding of what you're looking at and what you're catching, and knowing what those are, because the last thing I want to see is anybody get in trouble for keeping an illegal fish, undersized fish, or anything else like that. But the sad part is there's a lot of talk going on with a lot of different things, and one of the things that I'm starting to hear is that they want to close gag grouper. Not only close them early, but they want to close them for 5 to 8 years. Don't know how true that is. I'm just hearing some rumblings in the commercial industry about it. If that's the case, I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, it's getting a little bit out of hand, and that may be something else I need to tackle. I am going to finish off the Red Tide series. I want to get that done. There's a lot of changes that have happened. Some of them are for the good, from what I'm hearing from sources. So I'm going to get into that. And again, we have a fishing seminar coming up at Southeastern Fishing Tackle on the 28th from 6 until whenever. They're going to have free beer, free wine, free food. So if you can't come to this one with all the free stuff, then shame on you. But if you can make it, Southeastern Fishing Tackle, right there off of Florida Avenue, just north of downtown Tampa. Come and see us. We'll be out there. We're going to have a lot of things going on. We're going to share some knowledge that we haven't shared before, share some numbers so it entices people to come out. And again, I want to thank you for all of the support. It's awesome. I can't say much more about that. Thank you very much. Fish more, catch more, and we'll see you on the flip side.